Hi, everybody. Joe Cioffi here. Weather in 5 days in 5 minutes. Coming up tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. It's a chilly autumn weather pattern across much of the eastern and southern U.S. We'll talk about that, the lack of major storms and even cold fronts that will be moving through the eastern half of the U.S. And we'll also take a look at the tropics. So that's all tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got the beginnings of some frost advisories and freeze watches that are going up across parts of the Midwest and also now parts of the East. This is as of 2:45 p.m. Eastern Time, so I imagine by this evening we're going to see a lot more. So we'll update all of this tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. But other than that, there really isn't much up as far as adverse weather conditions. Actually, there's nothing up as far as adverse weather conditions like heavy rains and flash flooding and high winds, et cetera, et cetera. It is overall a quiet weather pattern across the United States. The only thing I do want to point out is in the Northwest, we have a handful of counties that are still dealing with some wildfire issues. So these are all air quality alerts with respect to those wildfires. And as we look at the satellite loop, there are clouds across the Great Lakes and into the interior areas of the Northeast. Low pressure is developing in northern New England and in eastern Canada and is pulling down the colder air to the south from the north. And that's going to be spreading all the way down to North Florida, and the dry air that covers much of the not only the eastern U.S., but even out areas all the way to the West Coast. But the dry air mass in the eastern U.S. is actually going to be pushing all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. And you can see how clear the skies are across the northern half of the Gulf. Just very, very quiet, and also off the southeast coast. So we really don't have a whole lot of tropical moisture to play with during this week and probably through next weekend. All of it is confined to the areas south of 20 degrees north. So we're talking the Caribbean and in the tropical Atlantic. So any tropical storm formation that occurs in the next 10 days is going to be a struggle and on the slow side, and that's good. We have no major storms or tropical storms or hurricanes heading for the United States. We do have some rain, and in some of the colder, higher elevations, even a few snow showers in northern New York. And the rain also extends up the St. Lawrence Valley and in parts of New England. There's even some heavier downpours in and around the upper Hudson Valley and on the Northway going up into northeastern New York State. A few showers in central Pennsylvania, all on the light side. Same across the Great Lakes, mostly a few light speckles of showers here and there. And we've got a few showers popping up in parts of Utah and Arizona, and some rain that's moving into the extreme northwestern part of the Pacific Northwest. The rest of the country, dry, clear, and calm as far as radar activity is concerned. Severe weather, no organized severe weather, severe thunderstorms are forecast for the next 3 days. So that keeps that simple. And as far as 7 day rainfall amounts, very little in the east. We're talking a few pockets here and there, and a lot of this is front end loaded with what's going on today up in northern New England, where we've got an additional maybe tenth to a quarter of an inch of rain there. Western New York, parts of eastern Ohio down into West Virginia, and also in areas surrounding the southern portion of Lake Michigan. Other than that, we're looking at little to no rain over the next 7 days in the east. There is rain over the next 7 days, but later in the forecast period for the southern parts of the southern plains and the Central Rockies. May see some snow in some of the highest elevations in the Central Rockies and back into parts of Utah, and also some heavy rains coming in to the Pacific Northwest, where we could see several to many inches over the next 7. But it's confined mainly to the coastal areas of Washington and northwestern Oregon. It's a dry weather pattern. There really isn't much to it. Here's the low. In fact, let me just update this so we can use the latest GFS. And you can see the low is in the Gulf of Maine. The blue represents some snow, but it's snow and rain mix, not really accumulating anywhere. And now, of course, we've got this big high. Gradient is kind of tight, so it's going to be on the breezy side overnight into Tuesday. And you can see the blue lines there that go down into Kentucky and Tennessee. That is the cold air pushing pretty far south into northern Georgia. We could see some frost. Could see some frost and freezes depending on the wind and any cloud cover over the next several days. And that'll also be the story for the eastern half of the United States. Frosts and freezes are going to hinge on wind and cloud cover. And for the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic states and the Southeast, we are talking more for inland areas, areas well away from the coast as far as frosts and freezes are concerned. This high is just going to build in. Stay with us all week. The chilliest air will start to depart on Friday. We'll begin to see temperatures moderate. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and probably Thursday in many areas, not getting out of the 50s for daytime highs. Probably areas in northern New England and upstate New York barely won't be getting out of the 40s. And then the high moves offshore, uh, sort of tries to move offshore. It sort of builds back west into the Central Appalachians. It looks like the weekend is going to be dry, and I'm moving this through at least the middle part of next week, and we don't see much of anything as far as weather fronts are concerned. Maybe a front coming through next Wednesday with a shot of chilly air for the Northeast and Northern Mid-Atlantic states, but on the whole, this is a very dry weather pattern, and it means no major storms and no big rainfalls for the next, I'd say, 7 to 10 days, from what it looks like. And we'll cover it all again tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you then.